Welcome back. You're watching Connect the World with me, Becky Anderson. Time here in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. It is 6:36 in the evening. Now, Israel's incursion into the West Bank has entered its second week. Today, the United Nations warning about, in its words, lethal war-like tactics used by Israeli forces there, including airstrikes. And it counts more than 24 fatalities, including children, and says damage to houses and civilian infrastructure is leaving the population there traumatized and in need of psychological support. Some of the images that you're seeing came to us at CNN here just from Tuesday this week. And earlier this week, when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation and the media following widespread protests, he drew the ire of many in this region, standing in front of a wall-sized map of Israel and Gaza, with the occupied West Bank erased from view. Now, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry said the use of the map, quote, reveals the true agenda of the racist, colonial far-right Israeli government, to quote them. And it goes on to say, Netanyahu's expansionist policies, openly displayed to the world, are part of an attempt to displace Palestinians from their homeland. Michael Sfard is an Israeli human rights lawyer, and he joins me tonight from Tel Aviv. And it's good to have you, sir, and thank you for making the time. What do you make of what we are seeing unfold in the West Bank? And what would you call it from a legal perspective?
Well, thank you, Becky, for having me. I think we've seen a lot of trends of annexationist trends that Israel has applied to the West Bank even before October 7th. But after October 7th, all these trends have spiraled, and settler violence, displacement of entire Palestinian communities from different sections of the West Bank, and the use of air force and artillery against militant Palestinians, something that we haven't seen for 57 years of Israeli occupation in the West Bank. These are kind of tools that are used in order to completely dominate the West Bank and finalize the annexation to Israel. Now, the International Court of Justice has only recently provided its advisory opinion, saying that these kind of policies and practices are illegal, and the Israeli presence in the West Bank must end. Israel is not only violating this decision, but actually accelerating its policies towards annexation.
I just want to do a slightly deeper dive on what we got out of the UN report describing Israel's tactics in the West Bank as, quote, lethal, and accusing the IDF of impeding access for ambulances, as you have just been alluding to here, to reach those wounded as a result of Israeli fire. The IDF responded saying, and I quote them here, during the operation, the IDF forces are sometimes forced to detain ambulances to check them, and this is due to the terrorist organization's cynical use of ambulances, and we have witnessed many such examples. The IDF did not elaborate on those examples. What do you make of those claims?
Well, of course, I don't have any direct knowledge of what has happened, but we've seen a pattern of denial of access to journalists, to humanitarian aid workers, and to medical staff, to areas where the IDF has been operating in. And since Israel is the occupying power in the West Bank, with effective control over the full territory, it is its legal obligation to take care of the residents of the occupied West Bank. It is Israel's obligation to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid workers and medical crew. And it seems that Israel is constantly violating these obligations.
There's a conversation during the rounds, it's a very noisy conversation at this point, about a, quote, forever war. The intensifying offensive in the West Bank as a means to keep this going for Benjamin Netanyahu and the likes of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who have expressed a desire to annex the occupied territory. But you say in an op-ed in Haaretz last month that annexation has already happened. Can you just explain for our viewers what you meant by that and why you wrote that?
Well, we have an Israeli government that basically advances a policy of Jewish supremacy in all of the territory that is under the government of Israel's control, naming between the Jordan River and the sea. While the West Bank was for 56 years governed by a military government, by a military commander, which is how international law envisages an occupation authority, in order to create some kind of a buffer between the occupying powers government, which is, of course, committed to the interests of its society. So the government of Israel is not directly managing the occupied West Bank, but rather the Israeli army. In recent months, a constitutional revolution was carried out, and most administrative powers over the West Bank have been transferred from the military commander to a governor, civilian governor, that is answering to Minister Smotrich. And so an elected Israeli who is a representative of the settlement far-right movement is basically now has all the powers, all the administrative powers, all the public powers in the West Bank. He controls law enforcement, demolition of illegal construction, and we can see already the results. No enforcement on illegal, unpermitted settler construction, and a full-blown enforcement on Palestinians, new construction of neighborhoods, a huge bubbling approvals for settlement housing units, and the interests of the Palestinian residents of the West Bank is completely ignored. So by creating this governmental Israeli control directly over the West Bank, this is what annexation looks like.
Thank you for joining us. A very important perspective from you. And your insight and analysis is extremely important as we continue to cover this story. Thank you.